Hi, I'm Catherine Baggs, and welcome to this week's Aries and Flights webisode. This week we'll be discussing my favorite and what I believe is the most important thing for any performer to know is how to create a character. What is this exactly? I want to know who you are, where you come from, what you want, how you're going to get it, and why it's important to you. Creating a really crystal clear vision of who your character is ensures that you will have a fantastic performance, whether it's an audition or the next show that you're performing in. Let's take a moment and break down each of these elements. So go grab your paper and pen and let's get started. Who am I? I want to know who you are. What do you look like? So what color is your hair? How old are you? What color are your eyes? How tall are you? Be really specific. All of these different characteristics will affect how you move. I want you to have such a crystal clear vision that if you gave this description to an artist, they would easily be able to draw a picture of the character that you're describing. What you need to remember is that you are becoming this character, so all of these specific details are really important. So for example, if your character was a young, sprightly 20-year-old with long legs and long hair and in great physical condition, they would move around really, really easily and probably quickly and have no problem at all. They'd move with ease. It'd be really easy. But if your character was 95 years old, had a hunched back, a heart condition, arthritic knees, achy joints, and low muscle tone, I would imagine that their movement would be quite different from that sprightly 20-year-old we were describing. So having this very clear picture will help you decide how you need to take the movement when you're doing it. As a dancer, we live in the movement, and knowing our character will help us create an even clearer picture for our audience to see. Our next element is where do I come from? So tell me what country, what city, what state, what time period, what your family life is like. All of these different qualities will affect the attitude of your character. So the more specific you can be again, the better off you are. So for example, how would a character whose description is described as an 18-year-old female who grew up as an orphan, has no living relatives, grew up as a servant on a farm in Boise, Idaho, react if all of a sudden she was transplanted to New York City? And let's just say it's the early 1900s. How do you think she would interact with people? How would that affect her movement? These are the specific questions I want you to get into when writing about your character. It will determine how you interact with everything around you on stage and will create a really relatable performance for your audience to understand. Next, I want to discuss what do I want. This for me is the most important part of all the elements. What do I want? What is it exactly? Be really clear and really specific. I want you to be able to tell a blind person what you want and describe it in such detail that they would think that they'd been able to see it as if it's in front of them. I also want you to think about this as your genie wish. What I mean by that is if all of a sudden you ran into a genie, or your character, I should say, ran into a genie and was granted one wish of anything that they wanted, what would it be? Is it a job? Is it a state of mental wellness? Is it a car? Is it anything? It can be anything from a car to feeling great about themselves or finding love. Whatever it is, be really specific and understand what it is that you want. The more specific you are, again, like I've said before, the clearer it is to the audience. And the better your performance will be because you will know exactly what you want. And now we're going to move on to trying to get what you want. This is the meat of the matter. How do I get what I want? Now, if you go to an acting class, you're going to hear acting teachers talk about a word called tactics all the time. What tactics is just action verbs that get you what you want. So you don't want to be passive and say, I want to be happy, I will be this. No, you want an action verb. For example, I will accost someone, I will ridicule someone, I will lift them up. Use really specific action words that will help you get what you want. A great resource that I like to use is this book, Actions, the Actor's Resource, and it's by Marina Calderon and Maggie Lloyd Williams. This book is just a book of action verbs, and it's a great resource, and it's actually really fun to play around with in rehearsal. What I do with my performance group a lot of times is I'll write up a bunch of action verbs on a sheet of paper and hand each person a different one. Their fellow dancers won't know who has what and whatnot, but it really changes how they perform, because all of a sudden I can give somebody the word to tickle, and they'll be using their movement to tickle everyone around them, and it creates more relationships, more actions, more stories, and really is an easy way to access to getting what you want. So be specific and play around with your action verbs. Have a lot of fun. This is the silly part of rehearsal is what I call it. But once you find what works, stick with it, and if you feel like you need to keep changing it up, feel free to use as many action verbs as you want. You can never use enough. Now we're going to get to the meat of your character. Why is this important? Why is it so important that I get what I want? Because honestly, who cares otherwise? That's why it has to be so important. Another term you'll hear in acting classes for this is called the stakes. What are your stakes? You want to make them really high. This needs to have such a sense of urgency that I, as an audience member, think that I will live or die with you if you don't get what you want. And that's what makes for a really great performance, a really relatable performance. You want it to be so important to you that it's a life or death situation, and that the audience feels like they have to go on this journey with you, because it's almost like watching a train wreck. They can't look away because there's so much action going on. So really take a moment and decide, why is this so important? Will I lose everything I have? Will I die? Will I never fall in love? Will I fall off a cliff? Will I be poor? These are the things that you need to decide, and write it out for yourself so that you can have it in front of you. So if somebody asks you, you can say, this is really important, because if I don't get what I want, I will die tomorrow. And it needs to be that important. Thanks for joining us on tonight's webisode. I really hope you found this information helpful. And I really encourage you to try this out at your next audition, your next performance, or even in your next rehearsal. I really believe that if you take the time to write down all this information, your performances will be so much clearer and so much more specific. You'll nail that next job with ease and make an award-winning performance. I'd like to invite you to Aries in Flight's New Year's kickoff event being held Sunday, January 19th at Simple Studios in New York City. And the event is being held from 2 to 4 p.m. We will be debuting our new piece of choreography entitled Dreams of Jazz, giving away free dessert samples from Catherine's Cafe, raffling off free adult dance classes, and bringing out the benefits of life coaching and showing you how it can help you achieve success in your performance career. Visit us on the web at www.ariesinflight.com, and you'll find more information about our classes and our upcoming events. Thanks again for watching, and have a great day.